Welcome to Politics NY with Skye. Behind the curtain, we are with Dr. Shango Blake, and he is the co-executive director of a new initiative, a nonprofit organization called NYC Speaks, which wishes to work with the new mayoral administration, the incoming administration. So welcome to the show, Dr. Blake.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us about this initiative and what inspired it.
Well, the New York City Speaks, or NYC Speaks, is a 7-month public engagement initiative, outreach initiative. And we're trying to do two things. We're trying to elevate the voice of New Yorkers and get more New Yorkers involved in participating in government. We want to raise the voice of the voiceless, go out into underserved communities, and engage people. And the way we're going to do that is we have a massive task of 50,000 surveys pushing out into communities that often don't hear from us, often don't get questions from us, often feel that when there's elections, candidates run and then you don't see them again until another 4 years, and then they're back in your community. We want to kind of break that cycle and say, no, we want your participation, we want your engagement. And so that's what New York City Speaks is about. It's about reaching out to all of New Yorkers, specifically Black, brown, and immigrant New Yorkers who often feel left out.
So how many people are involved in this initiative that are going to be doing the community outreach?
We have about 100 people right now. Our goal is 120 who are what we call civic policy councils. These individuals, what they do are they're New Yorkers from diverse neighborhoods, right? They're from like Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, and niche neighborhoods within those communities, everywhere from Southeast Queens to Flushing to Long Island City to Pelham Bay in the Bronx to Soundview to South Bronx to East Flatbush, Brooklyn to Bay Ridge. They're very diverse in terms of neighborhoods, but they're also very diverse in terms of ethnicity. They're very diverse in terms of subject matter experience and life experience. And so these individuals are the ones who are actually developing the research and interview questions that are going to be asked. And so there's a lot of if you could come into our internal meetings and see the conversations, it's very active because there's so many different people from so many diverse points of view, but that's New York. And so we wanted to make an authentic New York experience with this research. So we're talking about 120 people on our Civic Policy Council and about 50 to 60 community-based organizations with boots on the ground in these neighborhoods.
So, Eric Adams announced he has the 700-person transition committee. So now with your initiative, it's an extra couple hundred people. So how will your voice be heard within the transition committee and make sure that it's implemented, as we move forward?
Well, our voice is the people's voice. So we stand separate and apart from what's happening in the transition, but we want to work with the transition to lift the people's voice in terms of this conversation. I said the other day that Eric Adams was often referred to as the people's candidate. He always said, "I am you." He wants to create an inclusive government, and these are things that have been promised, during the campaign, and we want to help him do that. We want to move from now campaign to governance and govern in a way where the things that he lifted up in his campaign can now actually be actualized.
So if someone's watching this and they want to have their voice be heard, what should they do?
Well, they can go to nycspeaks.org and sign up where they'll get all the up-to-date information. They can go to our social media, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at NYC Speaks 2022, and they can go on LinkedIn, NYC Speaks, and they can just get all the information, reach out. Let me tell you something. We read the emails. I'm getting emails. I have so many emails with people with ideas, perspectives, feelings, and I'm reading them and I'm going through them because it's giving us a lot of information. And one of the things that I can just tell you just from the emails that I'm receiving is that New Yorkers have opinions about a number of issues. That's one. Two, and not only does New Yorkers have, obviously your dog has some opinions as well.
I know, I just muted it because people are not on command here. But I know it's true. People are more civically engaged now than ever.
Exactly. And I think it comes from what we've been through as a city. right? COVID-19 devastated
Yeah.
us all. We're all traumatized. It hit hard, especially in Black and brown communities. Then we have, the whole issue of safety in New York, the trains, the situation with mental health, and the violence is on the increase. Then we have, coming off of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, systemic racism, and how are we going to get all of that resolved, and people into those spaces from different points of view. Our job is not to have an opinion. This is what I often have to remind our Civic Policy Council. Our job is to really listen and see what the big themes that come out, like what is kind of cutting across the board, and then also what are like the outliers, little things that we should be paying attention to.
So has something like this ever been in place in a mayoral administration?
Well, there has been examples of this in cities like Miami and Chicago. In fact, our partners, HRNA, who we're working with, my co-executive director, Jose Serrano McLean, has been actively involved in this kind of work in the past. But this is the first time that such an initiative is happening in New York City. And so we hope to take it to the next level and make New York City a model for the rest of the nation.
Okay, so when I Googled you right before this interview, Dr. Blake, I saw that you are the nation's hip hop principal.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your experience doing that and how it may play into your role now.
Well, hip hop is revolutionary. Hip hop is cutting edge. Hip hop is innovative. And I got that name because I use the elements of hip hop at its core, right? Like not what we think is hip hop. I won't go there. That's a whole nother, that's a class. But I will say that I use it as a way to connect with young people, to engage them in their own learning as a principal, to bring them into taking ownership and mastery of their learning by relating to where they were, using what they were into to take them where they need to be. And at the end of the day, that's education. I don't care if I'm in a school and there's a group of students and they're into gospel music, then I'm going to be the nation's gospel, principal. Like I'm going to find the entry point to connect with my students to help get them to the standards. And so that's the short end of how I got the name, but it plays a very critical part in this whole process because we want youth voice. When we say New Yorkers, we cannot ignore our young people. We want high school students. There's some high school students right now that are participating in civics, right? Well, why not come be a part of this and get your credit actually doing the work? There are college students who are in CUNY who are of that age, and they listen to hip hop and they engage with that art culture. It's a very powerful tool. We use it to market everything. Why can't we use it to market raising your voice around civic engagement?
So will NYC Speaks be reaching out to that community as well? Young people, Gen Z students?
Oh, absolutely. And you want to talk about opinions? Gen Z.
Yeah.
My daughter's Gen Z, so I know they're very opinionated, they're very active, they're very community minded, they have something to say, and we want their voice at the table. We don't want to be exclusive in any way. And this is for anyone, no matter who you voted for in the election, whether you voted for somebody different in the primary or you voted for Curtis, it doesn't matter. We're now out of campaign mode. We're in governance mode. Let's get together. Let's try to solve New York's problems.
So, Dr. Blake, do you have any hip hop songs off the top of your head that you can just preview for us?
Like a song that I like, or
any free? Do you have any original
music that I do?
Yeah. As the hip hop.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot right now. Let's see.
That I am. You're the nation's hip hop principal. Come on. Even I have 4 rap songs that I recorded.
That you actually wrote. You have what the students. You said have what the students say is bars, right? I'll say this one. This was one I wrote about a couple of years ago. This was all right. Here it goes. Take the temperature. I'm a forecaster. Forecasting destruction, lawlessness, and revolution. Dissatisfaction, injustice. Better act quickly and do something. Raw heart, pure for children. School buildings need to be more appealing. In the Bronx detention centers, look pleasing to enter. Next door, a school that has no heat in the winter. Jails look better than school. Jail state of the art. School smells like a fart bomb. That's a fart bomb smells tart. Books outdated, class overcrowded, always packed with gangsters and they bout it. Savage inequalities bring death at an early age. Drop out of school, pop in a cage. It's a quiet rage in the atmosphere. Listen, be quiet, then you'll hear turn the music down.
Wow. That was a little like Hamilton-ish.
Yeah. And it kind of ties into where we are right now. There's a quiet energy. There is a quiet anger. There are people who are suffering. There is a sense of lawlessness. And I wrote that a couple of years ago, but it's so true today. And this is why more than ever, we need to lift the voices of New Yorkers so that we can channel that energy into something more constructive.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Shango Blake from NYC Speaks. We really appreciate you coming on NYC Politics NY with Skye.
Yeah, I know y'all didn't think I was going to be able to pull a rhyme out, but I did.
No, you did.
Thank
That's
you.
great. I love it. Thank you.